Okay, let's talk about the FIBA World Cup one more time. First off, congrats to Germany for winning the whole thing. Congrats to Serbia and Canada for placing. We're going to talk about Germany and Canada's games against the U.S. in this one. As far as Serbia, I mean, they almost won the thing and they didn't have Jokic, so look out for them in the Olympics. I mean, the Olympics in general are going to be loaded. I mean, LeBron has already done his call to the Avengers, and okay, we could talk about Team USA for the Olympics and stuff. But as for the World Cup, the biggest stuff for me was their defense, and I mean, some of that is rebounding, some of that is size, some of that is communication on defense, but also praising SGA and Dylan Brooks who were cooking, and Germany who was running a lot of creative off-ball sets, as well as Schroeder and Franz cooking. Now I'm going to talk about the defense a lot because I think that was the biggest thing, but offensively for Team USA, while I do think that they were pretty heavily reliant on pick and rolls and ISOs, and while there were some times where maybe Edwards or someone would have to take a really difficult shot, Halliburton ended up taking a few desperate step backs in these games, I do think that their talents were enough to get them by on offense. Between pull-up twos or catch and shoots, it could be Halliburton gets a screen, skip to Austin Reeves, two dribbles in, pull-up two or whatever, Wasn't the most creative offense, but they made enough shots. Except for the overtime against Canada, where it did feel like, they had the smaller lineup out there and Canada was switching some. They did have a few possessions there where it's they kind of just don't have an answer right now. So we can start with that Germany game. I mean, the biggest thing for me in that one was around the second half, Germany was just all right, we're going to put Halliburton into a down screen just a million times. And Obst was typically the guy, whether it was a handoff action or just getting an open three or whatever, just forcing Halliburton to be in those actions. And of course, the loudest one was the late one where Halliburton fell down after the pump fake. But even before that, he was able to get open looks. Brunson also fouled him on a three-pointer once as well. I think Halliburton actually fouled him on a three-point attempt once. So, I mean, he was certainly just terrorizing the USA with his off-ball stuff. The U.S. also had a couple of times where they just didn't contain Schroeder very well, whether it was him of course he hit that long step back two over Reeves that didn't end the game, but it was basically the dagger before the dagger, if you will. But there was also one where Jaren switched onto Schroeder, and then Schroeder ran another screen to get Reeves switched onto him, and then instead of doing the whole let me pause and then try to cook, he just kept on going, and because Jaren was already switched on the perimeter, he couldn't be the help guy at the rim, and so that resulted in Schroeder just getting downhill for a three-point play. And of course, Franz was fantastic, as he always is. Every time I see that dude in international play, I'm just yep, Franz Wagner. Dude continues to be awesome and probably still a little underrated, even if we all acknowledge he's underrated. And then, some similar things in the Canada game where, okay, sure, you had SGA making his patented difficult mid-range jumpers or acting like he's going to cross over, but then it's between the legs and getting Mikal Bridges basically spinning in the middle of a play, and then he's going downhill, or hitting a 2-point pull-up versus the Kessler drop because Jaren was out with an illness and stuff, or Dylan Brooks making a ISO pull-up two over Reeves, or having a physical drive against Brunson to draw. Okay, you had just individual stuff, but the U.S. also was just really struggling on what to do with SGA. They brought so many doubles, and you had Kelly Olynyk making threes, you had RJ making threes, you had a couple of times where they would help decently aggressively off of, especially Dylan Brooks is what it seemed like, to where it's Anthony Edwards sort of helping at the free throw line, and then maybe it's Reeves who's actually guarding SGA, and then it just becomes a matter of, can you close out faster than Brooks can get the shot up? And I mean, that's the gamble they were willing to take, and Dylan Brooks was making everything. But I did also think there were some weird times where let's say Kessler would switch on to SGA or whatever if he wasn't going to be dropping back on a screen, and then the USA would attempt to undo the switch, if you will, so then somebody's coming over, but there was at least one time they screwed it up, and that led to, I don't remember who, but somebody getting an open three, and it was what happened there? Also, shout out to RJ for that one spin movie out on Reeves. A play where they doubled SGA, kick to RJ in the opposite corner, and then it's just a matter of, make a play. And RJ, I mean, especially in the second chunk of the Knicks season and then into the playoffs, I feel he was showing more of that just off-the-catch stuff that you're hoping for out of him. So yeah, that was the biggest thing with USA here, was defensive communication and also, I guess, just not enough size up front. I mean, I think I've already seen dozens of posts online of people being yeah, they really need Anthony Davis for the Olympics. They really need Bam for the Olympics. Or I've seen a little bit of Brook Lopez, which, I mean, Brook played in the 2019 World Cup for Team USA, and from what I remember, he kind of wasn't that amazing. I'm not going to try to name every single good big in the league, but just a couple off the top of my head, Wendell would be interesting. The only thing with him is he has had some injuries throughout his career. Miles Turner, I think, works. Mitchell Robinson, Jared Allen. And I do know it's been a bit of a Jaren Jackson roast session, and look, Jaren didn't play in that last game. Look, I think Jaren was just played out of position. I mean, the Grizzlies primarily put him at power forward for a reason. Sure, he does play some center, but most of the time he's out there with Adams or Tillman, and it lets him be more of a help defender and all that stuff. You know what I'm saying. So yeah, I think moving forward, Team USA. Look, obviously for the Olympics, there's going to be more talented guys. LeBron's already not human for how he's still going at this age. If he plays in the Olympics as well, that's even more not human, if that makes sense. I think Steph would also definitely help out just the variety on offense, even if, again, I still feel like they were able to, for the most part, score enough to win. So yeah, I mean, we'll see if the old dudes want to be in the Olympics like that. I know what LeBron is saying now, and same thing with Steph, KD, and all that. AD, I mean, given AD's health stuff, like, it would be amazing to see him. I think they could definitely use him. But I also want to talk about Booker and Tatum for a little bit, because I feel like those two are, if not entering their primes, then they're already in them. Whatever. I know they're like mid-20s. That's usually around the age when you go to your peak, right? And those are typically the guys who played the best in the Olympics. I mean, you can say a similar thing for De'Aaron Fox. And I do think that Fox, he'd probably be coming off the bench. He definitely would be if Steph is playing in the Olympics, of course. I do think Fox could just light them up in a way that very few guys can. Just, transition. He's fastest with the ball in the league, all that stuff. So yeah, man, should be loaded. I mean, between Germany just still being good and Franz getting a year older and all that stuff, you're going to have Jokic for Serbia. Luka's always here. Giannis should be there for Greece. We don't really know with Embiid right now. I'm just kind of rambling at this point, but yeah.